Hi everybody. Okay, so before the video really starts, I just want to quickly say um that I don't even know what I want to say. What I meant to say in the beginning before I start everything is along with the colors that I list when I pick them out, I'm also adding white to the list. And then if you are using watercolor and or gouache, or even with acrylic, if you want to get that clean edge that you see me on taping in videos, make sure to tape your painting before starting, and make sure all the edges are close to the paper. Also double check that your paper is strong enough to be taped and have it come off cleanly. You can do like a test run with that on another piece of the same paper if you have the means. And yeah, happy painting. I hope you guys enjoy this video. This is the finished product, so if you're interested in being able to paint this yourself, um, come set up with me while I start the video. Have a good time. Hi everybody. My name is Rhiannon. I am an artist, and I want to have this video be a tutorial for how to paint a landscape. And right now, I wish I knew for sure which painting I just picked out, what master study it's of, and I'm not sure. I think it might be. That's everyone's homework, is find out who the master painter of this painting is. I have 3 guesses, and they might not be right. At least 2 or 3 of them are not right. But this could be a Maxine Maufra, a Gustave Louisau, or Claude Monet. I don't know. It could be another one. So points to whoever gets that right. Any art historians, come check this out. Okay, so this is the painting I chose to do a tutorial of. I just really like that there's a moon in it. I like the colors, and it's not the simplest one that I could have chose, but I think it's a good one to start with, because you'll surprise yourself if you paint along with me, more than just doing a simpler one. So I want to show you guys that painting is not impossible. It can be hard, but it will be worth it when you get to see the end result. And I'm going to try and simplify it so it's not as daunting as the finished product may make it seem. So what I do is I just wanted to be able to show this picture up close in the camera, but I'm going to tape it up here so we can kind of have that as a reference as we paint. So I don't have a mic stand, so I'm just going to place this down for a second while I tape this up. So, un moment. Okay, so this is our reference, and I just used masking tape to tape that up there. And now, since we are obviously going to be making this a lot bigger, I have not actually done a master study to this scale with painting. And since I usually use watercolor and gouache for these, right now I hope that stays. But I am going to change the scale. And for me, the way my brain works, grids kind of don't help me at all. It kind of makes it a lot more confusing for me. But I know for a lot of people, grids can be very beneficial. So if you do find this painting, I should have Google image searched it before. Let me do it right now just so you guys can actually truly follow along and not have to do too much extra work. I'm at 1%. How fast can I do this? Come on. Okay. And my phone died. Okay. Sorry for the delay. So again, points to whoever figures out what painting this is. so so now we're gonna choose the colors. And this can be a tricky part, especially for a beginner, because some color mixing will be needed. Um, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the colors I'm going to use first, and then put those all out. And this is where it gets kind of like a little bit in between with like acrylic and watercolor, because acrylic does dry quicker. But since this is such a big painting, I'm going to be using a good amount of paint, so I think it will be fine that I have them all out at once. So the colors I'm going to choose is definitely like a wisteria, almost like light purple. And right now I just have Avenue Art acrylic paints, and this is in the color lavender. And we're gonna have that one, set that one to the side. And for this blue, there's many different shades of blue. There's many different shades of every color, but we are going to we're gonna go for a bit of, let's see our options. And it's always good to kind of separate all the colors into like the color sections, and then just kind of like dwindle it down from there. So what I'm thinking with the colors I have closest to this, because there's always going to be a little bit of discrepancy with the colors, and then of course the calibration of your monitors or your printers and stuff, it's going to change the colors. So as long as it's close, and you like the color too, that's kind of most important. So right now I'm looking at slate blue. I don't know how I feel about it. And I'm kind of thinking French blue might be. Yeah, I think French blue is going to be the one. And just for sake of, helping it be a bit easier, I am choosing colors that are just close right out of the tube, because you can always kind of work a bit harder with color mixing, but I think that just for now it's easier to just work as close to that as we can, even if it's a little bit off. We're not looking for perfection, we're just looking for ways to learn. And so now what I'm seeing is we have the purple, the blue, and then there's like a bit of this like neon green that's in the water. So I'm gonna find one that's like that. It's almost like a yellow green. And this is pretty close, I think, with a bit of white, or just thinned out with water. That will be fine. And this is chartreuse. And okay, so now we have the purple, the blue, the green, and what's next is all these orange warm colors and the brown. And what I'm seeing is a pretty warm, this is a rust color. And I think that will be a bit closer than just actual orange, because you do want it to have that tinge of brown. So we're going to put that to the side. And then let's compare burnt sienna and raw umber. And then there's also burnt umber, and there's also ochre. But I think the rust will be fine for that. Let's just, yeah, I think that will be fine. Okay, so we're looking at the browns, and I'm usually looking at kind of, there's a lot of kind of like, almost like working with threes, like there's like a light, a medium, and a dark with the colors with their tonal values. So I'm just kind of finding like that middle color, because we can always darken it or lighten these colors with white or a darker tone. A darker tone more than just using black paint, because black paint does tend to dull it. White does tend to dull it too, but I mean, I can get more into that in a later video. So let's decide. I'm gonna take burnt sienna out, right, just from looking at it, and I'm thinking raw umber, just because it just looks a touch more warm than the burnt umber. And then obviously there is a bit of really dark, almost like black in there, so I don't know if there's like a sepia, like a really dark brown. We might have to just bite it and do a black. We're beginners, so we're just gonna go for it with the black, because you can learn about that later, or we could just mix Prussian blue with the raw umber. Let's see how dark this actually is. Yeah, we'll just do that. So I'm gonna add Prussian blue, which is, it tends to be a pretty dark blue, and that mixed with the brown will make it a bit of a darker brown, close to black but not exactly black. So it will give a nicer kind of touch. So, and I'm seeing like a light, like pale yellow. And for the pale yellows, there are cream and sand. So let's see what those look like. Sand's pretty yellow, in my opinion. Let's see. Okay, let's use cream. And then I think the rest we'll be able to mix. All right. So you guys can see, because a lot of my palettes are pretty used, so I want to just use something that you guys can clearly see the colors on of like the specific palette. Oops. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the rest of these paints away, and then I'll put the colors out and we'll get to it. So I hope that, you know, this is a bit in depth, so this is gonna take a while. I'm not sure if I will edit this down to kind of save time, but I think, you know, if you're setting up with me, it gives you guys the time to take your time as well and listen along. So I'm just putting these paints away just so I don't get overwhelmed with color options. I want to stick to stuff that, you know, I don't want to just switch it up midway through. So if you're using like your own palette, the colors I'm basically using is light purple, and if you just have violet, you can just white with that violet, so you get a light purple. And we have a light green, like yellow green, and you can mix yellow and green to achieve that color, maybe a little bit of white. And then we have a rusty kind of ochre color, which you can use like brown and orange for. And then we have a light blue. It looks a bit like a cerulean, but it says French blue. And Prussian blue. So a light blue, a dark blue, and then a light yellow, like off-white yellow, and then a brown. So we're using 7 different colors. And I should just add the white in the mix, just because you never know when you're going to lighten it, because colors are always a bit different than the tube colors that they say. So I'm gonna add one more color. This is the final. Okay, no, this is when I like want to change everything, but let's just stick to it. Where's my white? Because I can't find my white. Okay, so I'm just gonna put these paints out and we'll start. So 18 minutes setup time, not bad. Okay, so we have our colors out and we are ready to start. And one more thing about materials is that when I do all of these paintings, I use the same brush the whole time. And I think that for a beginner, that kind of helps to not be switching a bunch between different brushes. And I think even like, as you grow in your art adventures, it's paintbrushes are very versatile. So the paintbrush that I like the most is just a flat wash paintbrush that has just kind of like a square rectangle like edge, because you can blend with this, you can make sharp edges with this, you can make clean lines with this, and you can blend. And then with a bit of finesse, it's really mostly in like the wrist and like the paste that you paint that does a lot of the little techniques. So you can kind of practice with just doing different directions and angles of using a paintbrush. And what we're going to start with is we're going to kind of try and look through the layers of the painting, and we're going to try and look as far into it as you can to see the background, and then like middle ground, foreground. So in the beginning, all we're doing is color blocking. We're just looking for the furthermost colors. And as you kind of learn a bit more about how colors kind of play on each other, you'll kind of realize what colors can sit underneath colors and what colors will cover them completely or will like mix. And since we're using acrylic paint, there's a bit more leeway with being able to cover colors underneath. But with watercolor and gouache, you have to be just a little bit more mindful of what's underneath. So what we're gonna start with, since the blue is much darker than the purple, and since the sky is the thing that goes farthest in this painting, we're going to start with the light purple. And since it goes pretty much, there's little specks of purple towards the top, we're just going to cover the entire top half with light purple. And we're going to stop at that horizon line. So this is where it will be easier when you do have a grid to kind of find those points where, like I just kind of eyeball it. so you don't have to go exactly to the way I'm doing it. And this is kind of taking it, this isn't the original piece. This is just a study I've done. So that's already removed from it a bit too. And that's also why, as much as, what is the word? But the studies where, nothing's changed, it's just, oh my gosh, I said it earlier in this, I can't remember. But just like when it's just a setup still life, when it's a still life, that has a layer to it. When you are taking something from life and you either, like, if you take a picture of it, that's already turning a 3D into a 2D. And then if you do a painting of that 2D photo, it's making that 2D even more 2D. So the best way to get the most dimension that you can is to go directly from 3D to 2D, like directly into a painting or a drawing. But that's not what we're doing right now. So I'm going to take that light purple, and since we're not too worried about the color match, because there is a bit of pink in there, I'm not going to worry too much about it, because I want you guys to be able to do this with as the least amount of mind upsetness as possible. And right now, I'm just having fun keeping it on the top half of the canvas. I might get a little bit of water on my brush and just kind of start to thin it out. And since there is a lot of blue towards the top half, I can thin it out pretty lightly towards the top. I don't have to go to all the edges. You can, if that's easier, especially with whatever kind of size or scale you're working with your piece. It could be easier to just go all the way to the edges. And once I get the middle kind of filled in, I'm going to take into consideration a little bit more of where these cliffs are. So if these cliffs are kind of like towards this left side a little bit, I can just have it go into where those cliffs are going to reside, just so there's no kind of like halo around it, that these cliffs will just kind of, there won't be a white from the canvas kind of right on the edge. So I'm also going to take in how far down this goes. So this goes like almost like 1/3, and since this horizon line does have a bit of purple and brown in it, there will be a line covering this line. So if you go a little bit lower, that's fine. So I'm going to find the general kind of horizon line, just so I know kind of where to stop. And this cliff color will cover this purple, so I'm not too worried about leaving a space there. It's a bit tough initially to kind of mentally create negative space, just kind of loosely. And I am not someone that uses the like stencils and stuff, or like I won't sketch it out before. But I will kind of just, like, I won't use a pencil before and kind of outline stuff. But that's not to say that's not beneficial if that's something you need to do. And we're going to bring this all the way to the right edge off the page. And if you can see in the piece we're going off of, there's a lot of directional lines going from the top left diagonal down to the right. And we're going to have those directional lines come in with the blue. We're not going to really worry too much about the angle the purple's going in. We're just kind of filling in that color. And we'll just kind of clean that up. I'm out of the purple at this point, so I'm gonna try and just let that blend out that way. I might try and bring it just a little bit over more on the left side. And there's a lot of like variation in the purple that I've used just from kind of toning it down with water, and that's totally fine. It kind of adds a bit more depth that way. And I'll just kind of go do some long kind of swipes across the whole page just to kind of blend any little pieces, because you can kind of tap that in, and then if you go back over it with a longer stroke, it'll just blend out a bit easier. Okay, so that's the first step. Now what we're gonna do is we can do a bit of the blue coming down. So I have the French blue. I'm just gonna go right into that, and I'm gonna start from the top edges, and I'll just kind of go straight across, and I'll start to be a bit more intentional about the direction that I'm swiping down in. And you know, you can just kind of loosely kind of bring the whole piece around. I'll go across the whole edge though and make sure that line's kind of clean, and then I'll just go back into that directional paint. And again, it's okay if that covers where the cliffs are going to go. We don't want the white of the canvas showing around the edges of the cliffs, so it's good to kind of go a little bit lower than you think. And as I start to kind of fill in the top, I'll just bring it a bit lower, and it'll start to kind of cover some of that purple. And we'll just continue with this motion. And it comes down a little bit lower on the right side, so I might put like a little dash down there just to kind of start to bring that in. I'm gonna keep kind of blending that until we kind of like how those directions are going. And I'll start to kind of bring those dashes a bit lower. There's always little pieces, you know, that you can add as you go. So I'm not gonna make it like a perfect sky. I think that once we have those cliffs in, it'll be a bit easier to kind of add those little kind of moments and dashes like around the object. Everyone getting off work, you know, let it out. Painting's a good way to let out whatever emotions you have. Okay, so we have our sky pretty much set in. We're gonna place mark the cliffs. Actually, right before that, I think we're gonna do the water, actually. That's what we'll do. So I'm gonna take a little bit of the light purple, and I'm just gonna mix a little bit of the brown with it, and I'm just gonna do that real quick. Okay, guys, real quick. I know I'm not using a microphone right now, so sorry if the audio is a little different, but watching this back, I think the colors I would mix for this horizon line would be with the sky blue mixed with it, because that background is a lot bluer because of the distance as well. So just add that to whatever you mix. You can follow what I'm about to explain in the video as the colors I did use, but just like looking at it right now, I just, you know, I think that a bit more of that sky blue mixed with maybe some of the wisteria and maybe a little bit of brown, but I think it's more of a sky blue wisteria mix than what I did. So just keep it in mind. It's going to go back to me making my past decisions in 3, 2, 1, bye. So I just took the light purple and I mixed it with a little bit of the rusted orange color and the dark brown, and I made this mix right here, and that's going to be that background color of the land in the distance. Okay, so now since we have that color, we're going to do the horizon line, and we'll again kind of go a little bit into where we think the cliffs are going to go, and I'm just going to start with just a straight line across. And once I have that, I'll just kind of make some kind of random little bumps along the top and blend those in. And I'll just kind of have that go a bit farther. Okay. And now, since we have that, I'm going to clean my brush off. And we're going to go into that rust color, and we're going to place mark our cliffs. So I'm going to go right along. I'm just going to use the edge of my brush and kind of bring it across and kind of follow the general line. And I can break these cliffs up into shapes to kind of make that a little bit easier to see. So we're going to find that where it kind of ends, which I'm going to guess is like right around here. And we're just going to start to fill that in. This goes, let's say, right to about here. So there's two different ends of the bottom cliff. So there's like one that goes straight out and then one goes a little bit above and a little bit farther. So we're just focusing on the first one right now. And we'll try and find that kind of triangle shape in there. I'll get a little bit of water on my brush just so we can kind of push the paint around a little bit easier. And it's okay if the bottom's a little bit messy because we'll be coming in with a darker brown to kind of clean that up. And then we'll focus again on the top angle. Bring that shape in. So we're just building onto the same shape, and we're not too worried about the different colors going on. We're just worried about the shape. So you can kind of change the brush strokes if you want to, but there will be layers going on top of that. And then now that we have that kind of generally in, this could probably go out a bit more, honestly. But I'm just going to leave it. I think it's okay. So now we're starting that next one. It's a bit of, kind of goes straight down into that triangle, but it just stops a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to go with that bottom line. And that hits like almost to the middle. So the middle of this is here. So we'll just bring it out just a little bit more, just a touch. And so now you'll see that we're like covering our horizon lines and the sky and stuff. And that's totally fine. We didn't want to get too attached to that anyway, since we know stuff is going on top of it, and it's just the color blocking. So I might just add that one last little kind of peak there. And then we'll just fill in the rest. And you can let there be a little bit of a defining kind of shape. You can just let it be the paint strokes that kind of let you in on that information, just because there will be a distinct line between the cliffs right there, but we'll be able to find that again. Okay. So now we're gonna do that middle cliff that's right there. So we're in the same color, and we're going to find that shape. So, well, actually what we could have done is do the water first. That's what I wanted to do, and then I got ahead of myself. So I think what we'll do is we'll just bring this orange color into the sand. So we'll go all the way to the corners. And if you are using this with watercolor and gouache, I meant to say before that it is very nice to kind of tape your paintings beforehand and give that clean edge. You don't have to, obviously. I just think it is a nice kind of touch. And I'm just going to water this color down as it gets up to the cliff just so I can see that line, even though we'll have that be darker later on. And we're going to bring this pretty close to kind of across. So I'm going to take like almost to the edge of this cliff. We're going to make a little triangle line right there. And then we're going to bring this out pretty much to the edge. And that's going to be our whole beach. We're just going to fill this out pretty watered down so it's a light color, because we're going to be putting that kind of pale yellow on top. And we're also going to have the waves kind of come over this, so it'll be a nice little overlap when some of those waves overlap the sand color, because water is transparent. And just get a little bit more water on those edges. And we're not too worried about the brush strokes. And once I get this in, we're just going to take a little bit of a break because I'm going to have some food, and then we'll come back to it. Cleaning up that edge because I wanted to. What we can do really quick though is just quickly get that water in. I'm just going to go into that light green and go almost right up to that horizon line. I'm going to go right up to that sand line and just fill in that whole space. And since we'll add darker to the edges of the cliffs, it's okay if that color overlaps. And there will be white waves at the edge of that, so it doesn't really matter if it goes fully across. um, the sand. There can be a bit of difference in that. And then I'm just going to go back into that sky color that we have, and I'm just going to have that be the line in between that horizon line and the water. And this might be good to wait for it to dry because it is kind of blending into a green color. And I think this is when we're going to let this dry and try again. All right, we're back. We're going to go right back into the horizon line with the blue. I'm just going to go clear across, possibly going into the cliffs just a little bit so that line goes right through. And it doesn't have to be super intense in the middle because that cliff will cover. And then I'll just kind of bring it down just a little bit over this green. And since this is the ocean and it looks a little bit wild with all the green, we're just going to do a few kind of lines going back and forth over the green to just show that this is water and not toxic. Who knows? Okay, so I'm just going to bring it down like maybe like right up to the edge of this cliff. Like I'll go straight across with some little like dashes and swipes going back and forth, and then on the right side there will be that cliff there, and we can almost kind of mark that and just do a bit of some lines over here so that cliff will go right in that kind of green gap that we have. So I'm just going to do a few more. And these are always like moments when you're going kind of back and forth with colors that you can always kind of bring that base color in if you want to do any touch-ups. And you can kind of do as much or as little as you want in these moments, and you can always kind of go back and forth with it. It's just kind of your own personal little dance with the colors. Like I could go back into that yellow green and just do a few swipes if I think I have too much of any blue or so. And yeah, and this whole bottom area will have more of that kind of white or or the light purple. So I'm gonna let that be for now and just let that kind of be. And then we're gonna go back into that cliff color that we have. I'm gonna clean my brush off, and I'm gonna go back into that lighter brown, and we're gonna place mark this cliff. So I'll go kind of right up. It's a bit of a slant. It kind of all follows like this kind of downward slant, the edges of these cliffs. I could probably have this go a little bit higher now that I'm looking at how tall I made that part. Let me just do that real quick. Because if you see something that you want to change and you have that color on your brush, why not? We're gonna keep trying to put in that outline of the cliff rock in the middle, and the edge almost lines up with that. So I'm gonna turn this kind of into like a triangle shape, and it's like once it hits that kind of horizon line, it kind of goes a little bit more straight down into a different angle, and we'll just start to fill that in. crisp those edges up a little bit more. You can notice that even with the colors, it does kind of show through a bit. So that's why with those watercolor pieces, the gouache is involved, just so, you know, when you do run into those moments where the transparency is an issue, the gouache with a few layers or with just a heavy stroke, it definitely helps cover a lot of that. And then also as you kind of go with the kind of little details, you can definitely disguise a lot of those marks as texture with the other little bits of color we'll be putting in, especially that darker brown. Okay. So there are little rocks in the water, and I think before we do all the waves kind of crashing, it is easier to know at least where they are generally. So I'm going to use that same light brown, and so there's two rocks in between the cliffs. So I'll kind of start with the one that's like almost touching that corner. And I'll just keep it as a straight line and then build up that left side. And make it just a little bit heavier on the bottom, and just the way that give a little bit of an edge here and there. And then we'll do that second rock that's goes, I'll kind of extend that bit of the cliff right there, kind of sticks out a little more. And we'll have that rock almost touch that other one, but we'll just smooth out the bottom line. And those will have a darker brown in them too, so that's okay. And then the last rock is kind of at an angle. So I'm just going to get the rest of the pigment off my brush, and instead of just kind of putting it all in the water, I'm just going to kind of just put it where it's already that color. All right, so now we're going to go back into the sky, and we're going to place mark that the moon, and we're going to just kind of go a little bit back and forth with the blue and the purple. So I'm going to start with the purple again. So we have the light purple on our brush. And now I'm going to do just some of those same diagonal lines that are going towards the bottom right and going up towards the top left. And we're just going to start to have that kind of have more of a blend between those two colors and show more distinct kind of lines. And since, you know, we haven't done any real outline on the cliffs, it's okay if there's some overlap in there, and I'm going to kind of vary some of these lines, so I'll make them a little bit shorter, a little bit longer, just so there's variation. It doesn't just look like one type of line. Bring some blue ones down a bit low. And now since we have those cliffs in there, it's a little bit easier to kind of tell like where we want kind of it to be heavier on certain colors. So once I kind of have them place marked, I'll kind of speed up the way that I'm kind of brushing, because that'll just kind of pick it up and blend it. And a lot of these ways of painting, it just kind of depends on how long you want to take, because you can spend all day just doing this. Just kind of like, you just kind of want to get it to a point where you're satisfied with it. So I'm just kind of going back and forth right now with just the purple and blue. And I'm going to put some more purple out. I'm going to try and
get a little bit heavier with the purple where that moon is going to go, because that's going to have a bit of an aura to it. So I'm going to pick up a good amount of that, and I'll just kind of go right up to the cliff edge, and we'll kind of, the blue will kind of give more of that kind of circle texture to it, but we'll just keep that definitely more purple than blue in that little corner above the cliff. And I'll just try and pick up any spots that are still have the white of the canvas showing. Might get a little bit of water on my brush just to have it kind of be able to travel a little bit farther on the canvas. I'll cover up some of the blues. Christmas, where are you? And okay, so I want to do just a little bit more in there, and we'll go back in with the blue. And I want the blue to be a little bit heavier. Since this scale is so different than what I'm used to doing, I want to just kind of keep going with it, but I know that I can just be doing this for a long time. So we'll just kind of try and let that be, and then we'll just do like a little bit at the end and try and let that work. Okay, so that's where we're at with the sky. And now for the sky, we're going to put in that moon. So I'm going to go right into that pale yellow. I'm going to actually clean my brush in the water real quick because I want that to be really light and not mix with those other colors. And right in the middle. And this yellow is a bit more yellow than I would say the painting is, but that's okay. And it's probably a bit bigger than that too, so let's just make that just a bit bigger. Do you want the mic?
No.
Sing into it.
No.
It's a long way to the top.
Hello, everyone. Hello. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Thank you. I'm just gonna make that moon a bit bigger. Can you? Now we're gonna add a bit of this yellow to the edges of the water down here, just to kind of lighten that up just a bit. And it blends in pretty lightly. Okay, so now we're going into the dark brown that we have, and we're just gonna grab some of that, and we're gonna outline the bottom of the cliffs. So I'm just gonna go right across that line, drag it across, and what we're gonna do, and this is when we'll want those edges of the lines to be pretty clean. And I'll just start to kind of do upward strokes to start to blend that up. Like you can kind of blend it back and forth with going up and down if there's a harsh line. And I'm just gonna bring it up just like a small bit, and just try and blend that out. And it's okay if different levels are different, you know, bits of blended. There's the more texture, the better. It'll look more realistic. And then I'm gonna just do a few kind of diagonal lines, just going up a bit higher, and then we'll just kind of blend those out. And you can do one of those like more towards the middle too. And then to help just kind of differentiate the two edges of the cliffs, we'll just kind of jump into outlining the difference there. And we'll blend that out. It's a long way to the top if you wanna rock and roll. Okay. Oh, the computer keeps disappearing. Okay. Now we're still in that brown, and we'll go towards the top and we'll kind of outline those edges. And there's some spots where it's like when you hit the corners, you can just kind of drag that line down to kind of show that difference. And you can definitely use thinner brushes for these moments if you want to, especially if it's a smaller canvas. That will help it kind of stay where you'd want it to. And you can skip some areas and just kind of bring that outline just kind of random, like a contour line. And I'm also going to go on the bottom of that other cliff and pull it upwards the same way we did the beginning part. Oops. It's okay. So every kind of like dip and crevice, that's a good spot to kind of darken. So with this cliff on the side, that whole left side is kind of in the shadow dark brown color, and so we're just gonna outline that again and fill it in. And it's good to note that this edge of the cliff is at an angle, and that kind of shows the kind of 3D aspect of it. And we'll go and find that inside line. And we'll fill that in. And we'll go along the bottom. We'll pull that up. And then we'll do just some indications of the kind of indents in the cliffs and kind of the middle of these cliffs. It's pretty general, it doesn't have to be exact. You just kind of do just some dashes and lines and just blend them out. And I might just do a few taps and just build up some of that texture randomly. So now we can go back into that pale yellow and start to put in some highlights in the cliffs. And now we're just kind of starting to build up texture and details, which will really start to have that kind of depth come out. So I'm going to kind of go on the like kind of near where we just went with all that dark brown, but kind of go on the opposite sides of it, or like right next to it or near it. And I'll just kind of go really loose at first, and then we'll go back and kind of blend everything out. And wherever, like, you know, you have lighter bits of the orange already, you can kind of stay in those areas, and that will help kind of blend between the shades. We'll go over here. And then now that I have less on my brush, I'll just start to kind of go back and blend those areas out. And be careful about the edges that are still wet from the darker brown. I'll just go back into these spots.
do a few kind of random swipes underneath on the sand. And just continue to kind of blend. Blend, blend, blend. Okay, and I'm just going to clean my brush. I don't have any lingering colors, and I just want to go back into the pale yellow, and we'll kind of start to bring in some of those kind of highlights in the sand. And we'll just start to kind of lighten some of that orange up here and there. And the cleaner the brush is, the better, because I still do have a bit of brown seeping in. So we're going to go right back in. And so I'm just kind of skipping some areas and then just kind of doing some kind of big sections with just that pale yellow kind of covering it. And it's okay if it's a little splotchy, because we are going to be putting a lot of different colors on top. And I can go a little bit closer to those rocks. And I can start to do just a few kind of little dashes of the pale yellow on the left side. And there's still little bits you can blend up top. You can do that. And you can kind of start to find the directions of that cliff, kind of play with that. Just kind of move it all around into kind of shapes that you're seeing. And we'll just go right back into that darker brown, and I forgot to add those bits to the rocks in the water, so we'll just start to kind of tap and outline the bottom edges of those rocks. And also bring that darker brown as a shadow reflection underneath the sand. So we'll just do like a big patch of darker brown, and we want that to get pretty close to the edge, but we can also leave that space in so we know where that darker almost black color will go. And I can do a few kind of random pieces of brown, just little tiny dashes, just kind of here and there, closer to the bottom of the page. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make that dark brown. So I'm going to take some of the Prussian blue, and we're going to mix that with that dark brown. So we'll just take kind of like 50-50 with that, or just until it looks pretty dark to you. And I don't know if that'll pick up on the camera, but it's just a mix between those two darkest colors. So we'll just take that and we'll re-outline just a really thin line with just, we won't be blending this upwards or not. And you can make this kind of like a wiggly line to give some texture. And you can do, if you just do a straight line, you can just do a few taps here and there.
back to. And you can go over some of those outlines. I would only stay where it's already dark brown. And we'll do some dashes under the cliff on the left. And we'll just start to kind of build that up. So we're just going to go underneath that corner of the cliff, and we're just going to do a few kind of dashes here and there. Now I just want to go into that lighter brown, and we'll just do a little bit of dash marks underneath that corner of the cliff. And we could have done this before too when we were doing that on the other side. I just forgot to mention. Kind of make this edge underneath that back cliff a little bit darker. And we can just add little bits here and there inside those cliffs, in between those highlights, just to kind of break up those shapes into smaller bits of texture. And when it gets to that kind of point, you can just be pretty kind of random with it, because it'll just break up those bigger shapes into texture instead of changing the whole shape of it. So I'll just kind of tap kind of willy-nilly. And then I might go a little bit back into that lighter yellow and just kind of do a little bit more of the kind of back and forth that same way. We have the lighter yellow on our brush, and we're just kind of tapping around on that cliff. And let's do a little bit towards the edges, right up to some of those darker lines. Might go a little bit back into that base color that we had. Do a few kind of random pieces in there. So a lot of these paintings are a lot of just kind of random little taps after you kind of have base colors in. And I think that it's kind of, I might do a few bits of that orange, kind of peeking through some of the darker brown. But I think that's a common misconception about a lot of these paintings, how they look really intense. But it's really just a lot of kind of layers. And I just kind of want to lighten up the bottom of this cliff. So I'm just going to kind of keep blending that pale yellow until it kind of turns into a lighter orange. And then I'll go back in with some of that dark brown, kind of reiterate that kind of difference there. And then I want that little line just be a little bit different. So we'll go back in with that base brown, just so there's a bit of contrast. Okay. And now, we can just keep going with all of this stuff, but we don't really need to. I'll just do a bit of that base color here and there in the darker brown, just to kind of break up some of that. Do a few dashes here and there, dashing through the sand. Kind of start to blend out some of those. Go a little bit towards the edge here, just so that's a little bit sharper. And there's not really shadows underneath those small rocks that I'm seeing. They could actually be there in the actual painting. I'm not too sure, but I'm not gonna do anything with that right now. And I might do just a few more kind of dashes just to get stuff off my brush, and then kind of blend out anything that's a bit heavy. And take as much or as little time as you want in this. And you can experiment with having like different colors, like different shades of the yellows or oranges, and add more colors than just like these kind of like simplistic just straight out of the tube. That will just kind of create more depth and little bits of pretty moments, as long as it's kind of like in that same kind of family of color. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna clean my brush off, and what I would like to do is start to put in some of those waves. What I'm thinking is we'll go back into that sky blue color and kind of outline those kind of two lines that go straight across. And then, kind of the rest of that is just doing a lot of little dashes. But I also, something I'm just kind of want to do, because I just want to add a little bit of white to the purple, just so we have one shade that's just a little bit lighter, so we can kind of go around that moon and a little bit towards the bottom of the horizon line. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a few kind of extra lines here and there, just because I want that color to pop a little bit more. And I might do a few kind of a half circle, kind of just little bits around the moon, just to kind of give that intention of the aura. Do a few more kind of swipes here and there, cover up any pieces of the canvas sticking through. Okay. Now I want to just keep working on the sky, which isn't what we're gonna do, but it's what I'm doing right now. Okay. I'm definitely gonna keep blending that, I think, after, but now we're just gonna take that same blue, and this bottom line will start with the bottom, and that kind of goes straight across. So we'll kind of find where that starts, and it's a bit of a wavy line, so it can, the less kind of straight the better, and just kind of swoop into some big kind of swoops from the right. So that's our first, it's not easy to see on the camera, but that's what we did. And then we'll just do the same thing, just kind of halfway between the edge of the cliff and that wave we just did. And So we have those impressions right there, and then there's kind of like a middle wave kind of on the left side in between those two. So I'll just kind of ran out of paint, but just kind of get that impression in there. And then now I'm going to go a little bit into that Prussian blue. And we're just going to hit certain moments and just darken some of those wave lines we just did. And so it just pops out just a little bit more. And we can also do a few dashes of this color here and there. And you can also, if you want to, do just a few tiny little swipes in that back area of the ocean, kind of right before it hits that horizon line. That definitely works, and you can also use this in the cliffs as another kind of shadow color. And I would just say if you put it in one spot, try and put it in all the kind of areas, just because that will make it a bit more coherent and read a bit better when you look at the whole piece. Hey guys, so I'm realizing that one of the files got corrupt when I'm trying to edit this together. So all I really did in that segment of the video was I just took the light purple and I kind of did this like triangle space right here, and I filled in there, and I probably did like a few like taps over here with the purple. And I know later on in the video I add the purple to like the cliffs and the water and this kind of horizon line of the land in the background, but you can add those taps in there at this time too. That totally works. Okay, so we found the white paint and we're gonna do the finishing touches. So I'm gonna go in over those blue lines that we just did, and I'm going to go on top and we can be pretty thick with how kind of going across. And then we also want to do little white dashes here and there, but I'm just going to focus on above those lines that we did. And I definitely want to go pretty heavy underneath that rock and a little bit to the side of it. Go a little bit towards the edge. We'll do a few taps along the edge of that cliff. Show the water kind of going right up to the edge. Also do a bit of white by those rocks. And okay, we're gonna do a few kind of random, oops. And we'll just do a few taps of white here and there. You can do like a splash against the cliffs. And then we'll just do some taps and dashes. dots, whatever you want to kind of do, and just kind of start to fill in a lot of that left side. You can go into the sand. And if you want, you can do a little bit in the cliffs. It might somewhat dull it out, so I'll just do like a little bit, kind of just here and there, a little bit less than the others areas. And I might do a few kind of random little swipes in the water. Yeah, just do just some small taps in the waves. So just do a little bit more of kind of blending that out. And you can do as much or as little as you really want. It's up to you. And what I want to do is I just want to take some of the light purple, mix it with some of the white, make just a bit of a lighter purple, like that. And we're just going to go a bit along the bottom of the sky, just so that has just one more kind of layer of contrast going on. And if you want, you can do a few swipes in that horizon line with this color. And the main thing that we're going to do, though, is go around the moon with this. So we're going to just do some of those semicircles, go in between some of those blue circular lines. Just make sure it's getting just a bit brighter over there. And I think we'll just do a little bit of a dab of white in the moon, just to have that pop just a bit brighter. Nice. And I'm gonna just do a tap or two here and there. Do a few more kind of taps in the water. These waves. And you can just kind of let yourself find out when you want to stop with kind of just doing all these touch-ups. And what I kind of want to do, since I'm kind of out of my other blue, I'm just going to mix some of the Prussian with the white, and I'll just add a little bit more blue here and there to those waves crashing. And I might just add just a bit of blue inside those cliffs, just to have some color pop a little bit more inside of all that. And I also want to darken that line that's kind of separating the cliffs. I think that will look nice. And why not just do a few kind of strokes in the sky near those kind of gray clouds of this, just since it's kind of an off blue. And just do a little bit more. Just kind of little dashes here and there. We can do some dashes in the water of this. There are some blue dashes underneath those rocks, so I'm going to bring those in, just kind of tap those in, do a few taps under the cliff, do a few taps here and there, kind of go across that rock over there, maybe do a few kind of random pieces in the water. Do not be afraid. A few kind of random little kind of wispy lines here and there. And oops. Okay, so I think that is pretty close to done. You can just do little kind of touch-ups here and there that you're seeing. So for me, what I might do is I might add a few kind of random pieces of that light green just here and there in the water. Some random little dashes. I do a few random pieces here and there. And maybe a line or two in the water. And then I might go back into that really dark blue-brown and just kind of do just a few little taps here and there. I definitely want to darken this line between those two cliffs and have that stand out just a little bit more. I do a few kind of random smaller kind of dashes, just kind of blend stuff out. And I think the only thing I would probably do just a little bit differently is just use a bit of a lighter orange. Maybe what I'll do is, I'll just clean my brush off a little bit. I'll take some of that orange that we based the cliffs in, and I'll just mix it with white, just so we have a bit of a lighter orange to work with. And I'll just kind of move that around. It's kind of a mid-tone, just to kind of brighten up some areas of that. And I think that's kind of a nice last touch, just to kind of give it even more texture and more of a contrast between those bottom areas that are dark from the water hitting the rocks, and making the rock a bit darker. I might do some dashes in the sand. Might go back into that regular color, a little bit into the brown. Just make sure that reflection's coming in. And I think we'll pretty much call that. I might do just a few more dashes of just that dark brown in the water reflections here and there. But I think that is pretty good. Our first time doing a landscape tutorial. So I hope you really enjoyed either following along and painting with me, or just, observing and hopefully learning a little something that you can take with you. What all I kind of want to do now is just kind of do just little kind of random touch-ups, and you know, you can go as crazy with that as you want. I think the lighter purple that I used kind of dried down, and I'm not fully loving how that came to be, but I would have just done that a bit earlier in the process, just so that had more information to kind of go back and forth with. But overall, I'm really happy with how this came out. It looks great in the camera. It's a little bit more choppy in person, but I think all these kind of paintings have that quality to them where they read really nice from a distance. And I think there is a good amount of information that has transferred to this painting that was in the painting we were working on before, that we were comparing it to. And there is a bit of like halo lines around the horizon line. You can just kind of avoid that by just, you know, bringing all those blocked in colors that we did in the beginning just a bit lower than you think, you know. So it just kind of will eliminate that. And, you know, you can go back into whatever colors you have and kind of touch whatever you want up as you go. Might do even some of that horizon color as a reflection in some of the water. And I think as long as you remember to have fun and not take it too seriously, because this painting has been done before. It doesn't have to be perfect. It already lives as a perfect rendition of itself. So these are just kind of practice, just to kind of get a bit used to maybe the layering of what a landscape piece entails, and just to, you know, have fun with it. This is something, you know, you can follow along with, and hopefully, you know, if you want to paint with friends or family and stuff, this is something I think that you guys can all kind of surprise yourself with the end result. And, you know, you don't have to buy $1 million of a painting, because, not to say you shouldn't buy expensive paintings if you can't afford it. Wink, wink. If you are looking to buy expensive artwork, reach out. We'll have a chat. Serious inquiries only. Okay, so yeah, I could keep kind of working on this, like, and adding different colors, but I think for the sake of this video and what we're trying to accomplish, that this was a pleasant time, that it wasn't, we didn't really run into many issues with kind of doing a bigger scale piece. So I think hopefully this was something you could follow along with. Please comment down below if you you know, had any trouble, or you know, if it worked out for you. I would love to hear back and kind of find out, because I wouldn't mind doing this again in the future. I just you know, feedback is always appreciated. And, you know, if any companies see this and want to send me some art supplies to do these tutorials, that would be super cool too. But this is not a sponsored video. I will say that this is not done by anybody but me. So I hope you had fun. I hope you learned a little something, and I I hope you take a few steps away from the painting every now and then, because it can kind of suck you in. And sometimes, you know, you might surprise yourself and realize that you already did a lot of great work. And just take it in and let yourself be proud of yourself for, you know, being able to do a master study. Because if you can paint a master study, what does that make you? Have a good day. Have a good time. Have a good night. Have a good morning. Have a great time. Love. Peace. I hope you had fun. My name is Rhiannon. And if this is your first time kind of seeing my channel, this is the first time I've done a painting tutorial, and hopefully I will begin to do more of those. I enjoyed doing this, and like and subscribe and comment and share if you know, this resonated with you and you want to see more of these kind of videos, and give any recommendations of paintings you would like me to do a tutorial of. Okay, have a great time. Bye. Love. Peace. And I also forgot to say to remember to sign and date your painting. Okay, I'm going to try and edit this. Wish me luck. Bye.